Hello, folks. Welcome back to yet another edition of the Bibs Corner podcast, episode 28, and a special birthday edition for your boy, the Big 3-2. Today, still going to be pumping out 2 podcasts tonight because the grind never sleeps, or something along those lines. I should have come up with something a little bit more inspiring or whatever, but today was, it was an interesting day for a Mavs fan. Game 6, down 3-2, knowing that this was going to be us facing elimination. For me, this entire series, it was all about seeing good things that would be good signs for the future. The big plan, the big goal this year was just to make the playoffs. And then once we got to the playoffs, the goal became just not getting swept, right? So we had already accomplished both of those things. I think for me, coming into this elimination game, it was just to see how guys played facing, the prospect of going home or extending your season. And to be honest, the way we started the game, I was highly disappointed. We came out very flat, a bunch of, as they call them, high school hairy passes where you're just throwing passes like the defenders aren't there, and the Clippers were taking advantage of it. Fortunately, we rebounded from that, made it a game, kept it close for a while, got down big, and then came back again. I think that we learned a lot. Not only in this game, but in this series. We learned a lot about who we are, what we have, and what we don't have. And that had to be the goal coming into the to this playoff scenario. Again, people talked about the whole number one offense thing all season, and that's fantastic. But at the end of the day, analytics don't win championships directly. You need key elements, you need pieces, you need versatility in your offense. You need to be able to score in multiple ways. You need to be able to play multiple ways. I think that some of our biggest weaknesses were, one, we didn't have any type of real consistent secondary scoring once KP went down. And given his history, I think that has to be a thing. That has to be something we know. Like we can't depend on, is what I'll say. We can't be fully dependent on having both Luka and KP available. And with that said, I'll even go as far as to say we are more equipped to play without Luka than we are to play without KP. If we're going to play our game, that is. The way we're built, the way Luka plays on a normal basis, we have enough lead guards to run the plays, to set the offense, to get the ball moving, to replace Luka to a certain degree, replace what Luka means to the team and to a certain degree. Obviously don't have his ability. Nobody else has his ability to step up and take over a game for stretches. But again, once we lost KP, you could just tell how different the team kind of plays and how much is asked of guys who should only be role players. So, again, we learned a lot about this team. We'll get into that later. But overall, I'm pleased with what we did this season. I'm happy for our guys. I'm happy for the way we performed. And, I'm glad they're getting to go home to their families, honestly. This bubble situation is tough, difficult for a lot of people. And I don't know. I'm happy for the guys. It's going to be an interesting offseason, I'll say that. In this game, Marcus Morris, he took a big swing at Luka's head after he had already hit him in the head with the other hand, which somebody else pointed out. I didn't even realize that at first. Like, they were banging, of course, Luka threw an elbow and stuff like that, but people were acting like Morris didn't actually hit Luka in the head when it was very clear he did. They said it was a play on the ball, but it definitely was not. And Even then, like after he did it, he like stood and said something to make it clear that he intended to hit Luka. Like it wasn't a play on the ball at all. And then him pretending to be stunned when they threw him out, and Doc, even after the game, saying that he thought it was a play on the ball. Stop. Come on, man. It wasn't a reputation ejection. You get a reputation by your actions, right? And in this case, your actions warranted it. You got away with the stepping on Luka's foot. I don't care who you are. I tried not to be a homer. I waited for additional angles. And when I saw the additional angle, you literally see him step with his right foot, hop on his right foot, and then step with his left foot on Luka's ankle. Is it a normal way to walk to step on the same foot twice in a row? No. He was changing his walking pattern to ensure that his next step could be on Luka's foot. Did he mean to catch him as well as he did? Maybe not. Maybe he just meant to snip him. But he stepped directly on the ankle, took the shoe off completely, and then tried to act shocked that he had stepped on his foot. Nobody else was around. There was no reason for him to be up on Luka like that at that point. So Morris got ejected. Luka got up ready to go. Boban grabbed him and had to use all his strength to hold Luka back. Further highlighting another one of our missing pieces, which is a goon that's willing to mix it up and make sure our stars are protected. Luka and KP standing up for themselves or each other cannot be a thing. If we're going to be looking at making long runs in the playoffs, we need somebody that is valuable and can play good minutes, but also is expendable if we need him to be dirty for a second and make sure people know we're not going to allow people to mess with Luka and KP. We need that enforcer. That's obvious. Speaking of, I kind of already touched on it, but the KP injury situation, I believe on the prior pod I had mentioned that we might have to have a difficult conversation about it. Fortunately, since then and with the long break, the Mavs added more clarity to the KP situation. I don't know if they knew about what the actual injury was and just kind of kept it under wraps for a while, or if they found out the actual injury later. But we did find out that KP does have I believe a lateral meniscus tear. Doesn't sound like they're talking about surgery, so it's not the type where you have to go in and remove it or whatever the case may be. It sounds like he may be able to recover just with rest. We'll see, or treatment. We'll see what happens there. Regardless, it doesn't sound like it's a serious thing. It is not related to his other injury or his major injury that he had. It's just a thing that happens. I mean, in basketball, players get hurt. There's a lot of contact, a lot of movement, a lot of athleticism and explosiveness all over the place. Injuries are going to happen. So I can't even put this, I'm not going to put this to being injury prone. I'm not going to put this to his leg being weak. It is what it is. It happened. He missed some games. It is what it is. However, what it did, like I said, highlight is that we are missing having another complementary player for Luka to play off if KP is out. Again, what Luka does can be replicated through 2 or 3 other guys on the roster already, but what KP does cannot be replicated by anyone else on the roster. The closest we have is Maxey, and we see how that worked out for us. No offense to Maxey, I love you, baby. I don't know. I'm excited. You know, it's weird. The season is over. I'm not disappointed though, because we reached our goals. We did what we were supposed to do. I'm actually excited about the offseason. There are so many possibilities in the air for us. We have a mid-first round draft pick, which is going to be highly valuable in trade scenarios. Could end up being highly valuable if we keep the pick as well, depending on who's available on the board. Knowing our draft history isn't the greatest. And our trade history is better. I'm expecting that we're going to be involved in some trades. The first one that comes to mind is Indiana and Oladipo. They seem to value the draft and do a pretty good job of picking mid to late first round. So I could definitely see them getting into play, trying to double up their picks right there, and maybe even double up those picks and trade them for a higher pick. So that's the first one, again, that comes to mind. There's other possibilities out there as well, I'm sure, but that is for another pod. So I know I've been putting you guys off on the off-season questions, and I do apologize. I don't like being dismissive, but I don't like thinking about the off-season while we're still playing games. So now that the season is over, we'll start getting into that in the future. Another note, because the Mavs season is over, the timing of the pods is going to change. I've been doing these recaps after every game. So going forward, I'm going to continue to do my movie podcast on Sunday night / Monday morning. And then I'm going to do a sports one on Thursday night / Friday morning. So that's the way you'll start seeing the pod come out for the foreseeable future, at least until, major events like the draft and stuff like that occur. Sports on Thursday / Friday, movies on Sunday / Monday. You'll also hopefully start seeing some guest appearances now that it's going to be a more regularly scheduled event. I can do that. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to probably start reaching out to some people here soon, especially to get opinions on off-season ideas and stuff like that. I don't like getting too creative. After being disappointed with the Mavs for 9 years, I eventually got to the point where I'm tired of being super invested in getting my hopes up for the offseason. So that's where we're at. I'll get other people to do that for me. That's enough for this cold open. I guess I'll get into the key stats from this game very briefly, and then I got a ton of questions to get through. So thank you again, guys, for tuning in. Happy birthday to me, and I'll be right back after that. All right, folks, welcome back. It's your host, as always, Mike Bibbins, a.k.a. at Bibbs Corner on Twitter for the sports stuff. And I'm going to try to run through these stats quicker than normal. If you hear some munching or some sloshing of ice or something like that, I am eating. But bear with me. I'll be trying to get through this. It's a busy night for me. I got 2 podcasts to record, so bear with me again. So, key stats. Luka played 41 minutes tonight. 38 points, 9 boards, 9 assists. Another Luka night. Really turned it on late in the third. Going into the fourth, where we cut a 23-point lead down to 6. Just didn't have enough. Didn't get enough help. It is what it is. You can't say enough about the way Luka played in this series. Showed that he is ready for the big stage. Showed that he is what we thought he was, and he's gonna be a problem for the league for a very long time. The Mavs, I don't know what we did to deserve this kind of blessing from the basketball gods to transition from a legendary player, top 6 or top 10, top 12, whatever, all time, in Dirk, top 15. I'll be safe. Top 15 player of all time, top 2 international player of all time, Dirk Nowitzki, and then bring Luka right behind that as a guy who looks like he's going to be in the discussion if things continue, prayerfully with health and things like that. In the discussion, top 10, top 5, top 3, GOAT, whatever. A guy with that type of ability already at the early age of 21. And I don't know, man. Like I said, we're blessed. Like, we got that. That's our foundation. And then Porzingis obviously out with injury right now, but he's another young guy. He's going to be part of this at least the first 5 to 6, 7, 8 years. So again, we're set for right now. We don't have to be like some of these other franchises. I'm not going to name them. Y'all know who they are, where you're hoping every 5 years that every year even, that the next guy that you draft is going to be the guy, and it just has not panned out for you. We pray for those people and keep them in our thoughts. Anyway, Luka, big game. 15 for 28 from the field. 4 for 8 from the line. I would like to see that be a area of emphasis for him in the offseason. He mentioned his shooting as a whole. But again, I saw a lot of promise from him as far as the shooting goes. Very judicious in picking his spots. Sometimes he will chuck a three, but not. I don't think even when he was chucking threes in the playoffs, he was setting them up. It wasn't just, let me just throw this thing, see what happens. Like he was trying, like he was getting into his rhythm before he would release. Even on the air balls, he was doing that. So, and when you're doing as much as he was having to do, you know what? You can't really judge him for a couple tossed up shots that didn't necessarily come in the rhythm of the offense. He was 4 for 9 from 3, which again was great to see from him. I believe the stat they gave was that he shot about 36% from 3 in the playoffs, which is 3-4% higher than what he shot in the regular season. So again, he stepped his game up. We'd like to see that level of shooting or better from deep in the coming season. We'll keep an eye on that. Tim Hardaway Jr. was complete buns tonight. Did hit a couple threes late in the game. Good for him and good for us, I guess. It made us think that maybe we had a shot. But early part of the game, I think he was 0 for 8. Finished the game with 10 points, 1 board, 1 assist, 4 for 15 overall, 2 for 11 from 3 in 32 minutes. And just made it very clear to me, at least, and probably to a few of you as well, that he cannot be the number 3 guy. I know a lot of people were hopeful that he had stepped up and could be that, but with KP down, of course he had a couple good games, but I just think that his inconsistency and his inability to take over a game for stretches on his own is just shows that he can't be a number 3 guy. Coming out of the draft, I said that he would be like a high level 6-man type of guy. And that really is who he is. I know that didn't work for us this year just because of what our roster was and how things played out. It worked better to have him with the starting group so that he could be kind of corralled in a sense by Luka having the ball most of the time. Because when he was coming in as the 6th man, he just was throwing up everything. Nobody was there to tell him, please don't take these shots or keep the ball away from him. So this offseason is going to be interesting for him as well. Will he opt in? Will he opt out? Could they do a Dwight Powell type situation where he opts out for a long-term deal on less money per year? Because he doesn't want to leave. He wants to be part of this, potentially. Those are probably the 2 options I see because our team decides to be nice to players that they like. The third option, of course, is trading him some way, shape, or form after he opts in. And we'll see. We will see. The other guy who did step up tonight, not in a ridiculous way, but in a decent way. Like I said, he gave us a shot. Dorian Finney-Smith, 16 points, 6 boards, 4 assists. He was 6 for 11 from the field, 2 for 3 from the line, and 2 for 5 from 3. Coming into the series, I said that DFS and Maxey needed to be 2 for 5 from 3 every game to kind of give us a chance. So he did his job. He did a little bit more than his job as well. And so you can't complain about anything that Dorian gave us in this series. Very pleased with what Dorian did. Glad to see the growth that he's shown over the course of his career. And again, just proving that he is one of those long-term pieces that we can have. Just coming into the series as a whole, but then after the injury to KP, for sure, he was asked to take on more than he should have to take on, and a little bit inconsistent effort, but he still was able to be effective and again keep us in games. Maxey, same thing, asked to do more than he should have had to do. Put a lot of effort in, had some rough shooting nights for most of the series. Seemed to get his stroke back in the last 2 games, and I don't know. I obviously I'm a little bit biased when it comes to Maxey, but I think he showed a lot of promise this year as well. Another step of growth. Both DFS and Maxey's 3-point percentages continue to go up every year, And again, I think next year with KP back and with us hopefully adding some key pieces, both of those guys can play their role that they should have to play on a championship type team where they're playing only 15-20 minutes a game and able to go all out for those 15-20 minutes. Maxey tonight with 9.6 boards, 2 assists, 2 blocks, 3 for 10 from the field, 1 for 2 from the line, 2 for 6 from 3. Again, him and DFS, I wanted 2 threes from each of them. He gave me 2 threes, so it is what it is. And he had the 2 blocks tonight. I believe he had 2 blocks per game in the last 3 games of the series, 6, 5, and 4, and only 1 block in the prior game. So I guess KP's absence allowed him to be more around the rim because he wasn't having to guard Kawhi as much. And then finally, the 5th starter was Trey Burke, who came into the bubble, came into the playoffs on fire. Again, another guy that was asked to do more than he should have had to do in this series. And he ended up tonight with just 6 points, 9 boards. 6 points. He had 9 boards, which was ridiculous, actually. I wanted to point that out. I think that just points to the amount of effort that he was exerting. And that's kind of what I want to highlight about him in a second. But 2 assists, 2 steals as well. He was 2 for 10 from the field, 2 for 2 from the line, and 0 for 2 from 3. I think Trey Burke was a revelation in these playoffs. And one of my favorite things, actually, about this playoff run or this bubble situation, I think that he has solidified himself a spot on this team for at least another couple of 3 years, 4 years, whatever. I think he's earned that contract, and nobody's going to complain about that, I don't think. 9 boards tonight makes him the tie for the lead on the team in rebounding as the smallest guy that we played. And again, that points to the amount of effort he was exerting. Played hard, drove hard, and did his best, to try to be helpful to this team. And we needed that for sure. By the way, DFS, Maxey, and Trey played between 35 and 36 minutes tonight. Trying to keep a track of that. And so even though Trey didn't hit many shots tonight, again, he was working hard, playing hard, and that's really all I could ask for from him. Like I said, another guy who I think has proven himself. Going to the bench, Seth did not play great to me. 7 points, 2 boards, an assist, 2 steals, 3 for 7 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3. He played about 28 minutes tonight. And I think in the series I said I wanted 30 points from THJ and Seth, and they gave us 17 tonight, which is just something we can't have. Even with DFS doing a little bit more scoring-wise than normal, it just wasn't enough tonight. Luka had to carry too much of the load, and I think Seth has to get more comfortable creating for himself. I think he's shown that he's capable of it. He just, I don't know, for some reason, every now and then he just doesn't do it. Boban, big game for him, 17 minutes, 8.6 boards, an assist, and a block. Boban, let me pull it up, actually. And even the broadcasters pointed out that he was plus 10, I believe, in the first half, and very effective. He ended up being the only player for the Mavs with a real positive plus minus at the end of the game. He was plus 16 in his 17 minutes on the court. For contrast, Tim Hardaway Jr. was minus 31. All the starters and MKG, who I haven't gotten to yet, actually, were all minus 5 or more. And the only other player who was positive was Seth Curry, probably because he was with Boban, but he was plus 2. So, again, Boban, I talked about it. We talked about it the whole time. He has to play. 17 minutes, perfect. 15 minutes, that's the type of playing time I'm trying to see him get. We don't know what our team's going to look like next year, so we'll see. But you have a guy like that nobody can guard. You have to play him. if you have to get creative on defense, then so be it. But he is an advantage. He changes things. So hopefully we get to see more Boban in the future. And hopefully we have better complementary pieces to where he can be effective when we do play him. And the only other bench guy that played any real minutes was MKG, but he only played 6 minutes tonight. 2 points, 2 boards in those 6 minutes. Didn't really do anything notable that I recall. Cleveland, Reeves, and Jackson got in the game in garbage time. Played a little under 2 minutes. The only other notable thing I wanted to touch on was DeLon Wright did not play in this game. And if I'm not mistaken, let me go back to it. I don't believe he played in Game 5 either. No, he did play 21 minutes in Game 5. Was it Game 4? Let's go back. There we go. Yeah, he did not play in Game 4 or Game 6. I think the writing is kind of on the wall when it comes to DeLon Wright, in my opinion, especially with the emergence of Trey Burke. And that's one of the things we'll be talking about when we get into our offseason talk. But that's really all I wanted to touch on in this game. Luka did his thing. DFS played well. Maxey was effective. Trey Burke was playing hard. Seth and THJ let me down for different reasons. But otherwise, you have to be excited about this team and the possibilities. The fact that everybody in the league saw Luka on the biggest stage, and there's going to be a lot of free agent and disgruntled player interest in playing in Dallas going forward. I'm going to go ahead and shut down the stat section of the pod, and we'll get popping on these questions. Y'all loaded me up, so let's see. All right, folks, welcome back. We're going to get into these questions here that you guys sent to me. A little bit of everything here tonight. If I get distracted for a second, it's probably because I have the Utah-Denver game on in the background. But let's get into it. Let's stop wasting time. So the first question comes from Dog Talks Sports, and that is with 2 S's, Talks Sports. Favorite thing you saw about this Mavs team against the Clippers in the playoffs? Said he honestly expected it to be a lot worse with the Mavs going 0-3 against the Clippers in the regular season. So I wasn't too worried about the regular season situation. I think I ended up predicting Mavs in 5 or Clippers in 5, and with the hope for 6. But what we saw. What I liked that I saw, first of all, was Luka stepping up the way he did. I also enjoyed seeing KP play well when he was playing. And the role players like Maxey and DFS take on those defensive assignments they were given early in the series. Would have been nice to see Maxey's offense, but again, seeing him play lockdown defense and get some of the recognition he deserves was great. And then Trey Burke was fun to watch, and to see him play hard and look like a piece that can be here for the foreseeable future. And lastly, Boban, seeing him get big minutes and impact the game every single time that he was in there was beautiful. The favorite, if I had to pick one, it's obviously going to be Luka showing out and putting the league on notice for the foreseeable future. Let's see what else we got. Next question comes from Jay Montelli, who is a frequent contributor. Thank you, Jay Montelli. He asked, if Boban wouldn't have held Luka back, how quickly would Morris have gotten knocked out? I think it's a quick 3-piece and a soda, and it's good night. Also, is it acceptable to now be rooting for Houston? And I missed the second part of that question when I copied and pasted it into this sheet here. First of all, the Boban question. Luka might have got him with the first swing because I don't think Morris would have been expecting that. I don't know if he would have put him down. He probably would have wobbled him a little bit, and then that's when everybody else would have come in and grabbed people and stuff like that. Like I said, I think he would have got him with the one piece. Probably would have hurt his hand in the process, though, so that wouldn't have been a good look. But he also would have gotten ejected, obviously, so it is what it is. As it stands, I guess the best case scenario kind of played out with Morris being ejected and Luka continuing to be able to play in the game. And then, is it acceptable to be rooting for Houston? Hell no. No. That's me smacking your hand. No. We don't root for Houston for anything. Like, the only time you can root for Houston is to recover from a flood. Anything else is not allowed around here. I'm sorry. No. What? No. They're not even playing the Clippers, so I don't know what your excuse would be for pulling for Houston. Anyway, let's move on from that. You just had to get one in there to make me go negative on you. Next comes from Spam Mavs. Now that the season is over, I'd like to hear a few seconds on who was correct about Dwight Powell. Digging up some old wounds here. Dwight Powell was very divisive within Mavs Twitter early on in the season. Many hated him, many loved him. Many quoted analytics to support him. And quite frankly, I'm perfectly fine with Dwight Powell being a basketball player on the roster. I don't think he's the perfect complement to Kristaps Porzingis. I think that I would prefer a situation where he can come off the bench with Maxey and we can have Dwight Powell back. That sounded way too close to the joke. But yeah, I want Dwight Powell back united off the bench. That's my long-term goal for Dwight Powell, Maxi Kleber, if there isn't a situation where Dwight ends up being traded, which I would also live with. As far as who was right, you can like Dwight Powell, you can like his effectiveness as a role man without saying that he's perfect or the guy that we need there long term. I think that there's a middle ground between hating him completely and thinking that he's the best thing since sliced Roman. I don't know what the where I'm going there. Thinking that he's the guy that we need at the 5 next to KP going forward. And I don't know if many people were at that spot personally. So I can't give the credit to anybody on that one. I feel like there's a lot of, it's like politics. There's a lot of people jumping to the extremes and not a lot of people being willing to settle in the middle. So I was very vocal about people shutting up about Dwight Powell. So I probably fell into the anti-Dwight negative camp. But at the end of the day, I'm somewhere in the middle on Dwight Powell. And I think I even made the comparison that like a Cody Zeller or even like a Plumlee, Mason Plumlee, or is it Mason or Miles? I get the Plumlees mixed up now. I think Mason is the one on the Nuggets. But like a guy like that is pretty much Dwight Powell. Athletic, can run, sets good screens, hard worker, and can finish on a pick and roll. So you can do that job with those guys. It's just a matter of getting a guy willing to do that work. So, and with that ability, let me not downplay that. But yeah, somewhere in the middle. Like him off the bench. Don't like him next to KP necessarily. Think we need something a little better there. We'll get into that later. Next question comes from To the Future 22. I'm going to translate to English. Does Luka request a trade? No, Luka is not requesting a trade. Luka is happy. Next question. D Meredith 28. How much money do the Mavs have in free agency? I don't think anybody can really have the answer to that because I think that there is some question as to what the salary cap is going to be with the way things have gone with the COVID crisis. So that's going to be tricky. But with that said, Billy Sierra 16 chimed in and said that if Hardaway and Cauley Stein opt into their contracts and we sign both our draft picks at the spot we are currently picking, none of which is necessarily going to happen. But if it, as it stands, if everything goes, like if we max out on all the money that's tied up, basically is what he's saying, then we would have about $2 million in cap space as projected. So just an interesting thing to look at. That means that there could be some real cap space out there depending on if those things don't occur, which we know how the Mavs are with money, so we can expect them to find as many ways as possible to cut corners there. Moving forward, because there are plenty of questions down here. Where we at? There we go. Cody McCain asks, all right, he said, you don't have to talk about acquisitions, but what contracts are up this year for the current roster? So I did pull up the contract situation for the Mavs so I could answer this with actual information. So KP's locked in through 2024. That's a go. Tim Hardaway Jr. has his player option, so he could opt out and be a free agent or opt in and then we're locked in with him. Courtney Lee's $12.5 million comes off the books. He'll be a free agent. Powell, DeLon, Maxey, they signed their deals last year. They're all here through at least 2022, technically. Luka obviously locked into his rookie deal through next year with a team option for 2021-2022, which will obviously be picked up. Seth Curry signed his deal last year. He's locked in. Dorian Finney-Smith signed his deal. He's locked in. He's goes into that same camp with Powell, DeLon, and Maxey. Boban is locked in for next year. Justin Jackson is locked in for next year. JJ Barea comes off the books. He'll be a free agent. Cauley Stein has a player option, so he could be back and he could opt out. His deal is only for $2.2 million, so there's a high probability that he opts out, even if he wants to stay in Dallas. I think that if he does, the Dallas is not going to prioritize him. Because they'll hopefully be looking at some bigger names or potentially replacing what he does with a draft pick. So we probably have seen the last of Willie Cauley-Stein in a Mavs uniform. That would not surprise me. Jalen Brunson is locked in next year. MKG and Trey Burke come off the books. Antonius Cleveland, Josh Reeves, they are on two-way contracts, so we'll have to make a decision on them as well, but they don't technically count towards the real roster. So as it stands, when the dust settles, Courtney Lee, JJ Barea, MKG, Trey Burke are all coming off the books. Willie Cauley-Stein and Tim Hardaway Jr. could opt to come off the books. Everybody else is locked in, and Cleveland and Reeves will have to have decisions made about them. And we also won't have to pay Justin Patton or Ryan Broekhoff after this year, by the way. All right. So I think that answers that question. All right. Next question comes from, and I don't know how to pronounce this, so I'm just going to spell it, Anjocua. He said, do you think DeLon will be traded? Hard to move him with that contract, though. So you reference the contract. So DeLon Wright was signed last year on a 3-year deal worth about... well, his contract actually does go down every year now that I'm looking at it. Worth about $27 million. It was 3 years, 28.05 mil, actually. So he has 2 more years on his contract. So that's helpful that it's only 2 more years. So 9 mil next year, 8.5 mil in 2021, 2022. I don't think his contract is that difficult to move, actually. I think that it's actually almost perfect to include him in some type of package if we're going to trade for a guy, for example, like Oladipo. That $9 million contract next year is perfect for that. I do expect that he's going to be shopped heavily. So we'll see. We'll see. I do not expect him to be on the roster if the Mavs are able to find a buyer for him, and I don't think that his contract will be that big of a hold up there. Let's see what else we got. MFFL 7741, and I believe he has another question that's going to be coming up later. But his first question was, do you think Tim is on the team next year? I've slightly touched on that already. It's going to come down to what he wants. So, first off, if he wants money, nobody's going to pay him $19 million next year. So if he just wants that $19 million up front, then he will opt in, and then if we have an opportunity to bring somebody in, his $19 million contract expiring next year would be a valuable piece to include in any type of trade to acquire someone with a big contract and or name, hint, hint, Bradley Beal, etc. If the best case scenario for him as far as being on the team next year would be if he gets the Dwight Powell situation where he and the front office make a deal that he opts out and they sign him to a long-term deal for less money. That's his best case scenario. And if that happened, I would expect it would be very close to Dwight Powell's deal, actually. Something like 3 or 4 years for like 8, 9, 10 million a year, something like that. That's his best case scenario. I think that before we care to make any of those types of decisions, we're going to make some calls on some guys that are out there that may be available. So it's going to be, for me, I think it's 50-50. I know that feels like a cop-out. No, you know what? I'll go even further. 75% chance he's not on the team next year. 75%. I think that we have enough other guys already in place, and if we are successful in getting a complimentary guard to play with Luka that can be a full-time complimentary guard and not one that shows up from time to time, that Tim Hardaway becomes very expendable. With that said, I do want to make sure I point out that I'm very pleased with what he was able to give us this year. He was a big part of this team. But, this is a business, and we're trying to get rings sooner rather than later. So, again, you gotta think about it from that aspect of it. Moving forward, the homie Max Scouts decided to drop a question in. He said, how does Trey Burke's playoff and bubble performance influence the Mavs draft plans? A lot of pundits were advocating for the Mavs to draft a guard, but now that seems pretty unlikely. Well, first of all, the draft pundits need to shut the hell up about some guards. I'm so tired of acquiring guards. We seem to be very great at acquiring guards. Between Jalen, and DeLon being locked in, Seth Curry being there, I think that I do think Trey Burke is somebody that they are expecting to be able to sign to a longer-term deal, and I do think that lowers the possibility of us drafting a guard, unless we end up in a situation where there's a guard that we had high on our board that just is so clearly the best player available that we end up taking him. And in that scenario, I'm perfectly fine with that. It can't be another Jalen pick, though, where there's guys that are similarly talented that are at more positions that are more important to our needs. That's where I fall on that. So let's see. Yeah, I don't think we'll be drafting a guard. I think bigs or wings are what we'll be looking at in the draft, especially, like you said, with Trey Burke, Jalen Brunson in place, and obviously Luka holding down most of the point guard minutes, and Seth even being able to carry that if need be, if things got crazy. Let's see, what else we got? The Don Luka, who was highly disrespected earlier by James Grambo on the timeline. He said, do you think Dorian can/will take another step up in his game this offseason? His progression has been nice to watch. And quite honestly, I think I mentioned this earlier in the pod as well. Dorian Finney-Smith and Maxey have improved every single year that they've been here. I do expect that to continue. I think that Dorian especially showed some great flashes in these playoffs even, despite the fact that he was being asked to do more than he should have to do. Maxey, I think, was affected by the fact that he had to do more than he normally would have to do, especially with guarding Kawhi in the first 3 games. But even then, I expect him to spend a lot of time working on his ball handling and his shot in the offseason. And the same for Dorian Finney-Smith. I think those are the type of guys that are smart, and they see the points in their game where they had issues. They can go back and watch these playoff games and see, like, man, if I could do X, Y, Z, then I could be so much more valuable to this team. And I think that they're going to work very hard on that because that's what they do and that's who they are. I'm very pleased with them, and I hope that we do get to bring them some type of hardware in the next 3-4 years while they're here. Next question. Let me take a sip. Next question comes from 55 Savage __. And he asked, what's the number one improvement the team needs to make with the guys they have now this offseason? And there's kind of 2 ways to interpret that question with the way it was worded. Either I could look at it as saying, based on the guys we have, what's the number one improvement we need to bring people in, or then what's the number one improvement we need to make as a team with the guys that we already have. So if I look at it from the second perspective of what are the improvements our guys need to make, I would say defensive communication and being aware of your assignments, having better off-ball awareness on defense. I think that the offense being, like we've talked about and had to hear all year, number one is great, but it doesn't matter if you can't get any stops on the other end of the ball. So our defense was a huge issue all year, including in these playoffs, and I think that's an area of focus. And I think that goes either way, actually, whether it's just looking at the guys we have on the roster or if we're looking at what we need to improve with our offseason acquisitions and moves. Defense has to be at the top of the list. My sinuses are still killing me, y'all. I apologize. Next question comes from Keithan A _41. And the question is, how concerned are you about KP's health regarding the future of the team? He has in the block, I'm still optimistic, but at this point it raises a level of concern. He said, what adjustments do we need to make to facilitate working around Luka if KP is nicked? And this is something I've been talking about for a while now on the pod, since he got injured, basically. It was an argument that I made last offseason, and I didn't want to specifically say if KP is to go down with another injury, but that's what I was alluding to, why I was so in on Vucevic. And I'm not saying it has to be Vucevic, but I think we would... I think even tonight somebody said, I don't think we would invest in another big man when we have so much money in KP. But the truth of the matter is KP, between us resting him and then him now getting injured in the playoffs, KP being out destroys us. It kills our entire flow and makes Luka have to do everything. We don't have another guy that can score 30 for us after KP goes down. when Luka goes down, we have guys that can, over the course of the game, fill in his production. Whether it's Jalen and another person can give us a total of 30, 10, and 10 between Jalen and a backup. But we don't have another person that can play those 4 or 5 minutes that can give us 30. And that's a big weakness for us and a big flaw and liability in the construction of our team. We have to have another interior type player, another 6'10", 6'11", 7-footer that can give us 25, 30 on a given night. Maxey is never going to be that guy. And it shouldn't have to be Maxey. Just keeping it 100. So I think we would be well served in finding that type of guy if we can get him in some type of deal. If we can look at DeMarcus Cousins, something like that, even, I would be all for it, because that gives us 2 guys with injury histories. And if one goes down, we still got the other one. If both of them are there, look out. So I don't know. We have to get creative in that regard. I am very, 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 very re-energized on that point that we do need another scoring big. I don't even want to say scoring big. We need another productive big that can play long minutes. Somebody that could be a complement to KP, but can also carry the load if KP is out. I think that if that's not obvious to you yet, then I don't know what to tell you. Moving forward, next question comes from, and we're getting to the end here. Obviously, I guess you can see the runtime. Sammy _DeBab. What can the Mavs offer the Blazers to get Nurkic? So that's an interesting question. I'm actually going to pull up the Blazers salary situation. Why is my internet being goofy? Let's try this again. I'm going to try to pull up the Blazers salary situation. I want to say that Nurk's not on a huge deal at all. So let's see if we can try this again. All right, there we go. All right, so let's pull up the Blazers salary situation. I know they are pretty stuck as well. So Dame and CJ are locked in. They're $60 million up front right there. Yeah, there it is. Nurk's only $12 million. His contract is at $12 million. That's ridiculous. Let's see here. Wow, they got a lot going on here. Trevor Ariza is non-guaranteed for next year, but he's at $12 million. Rodney Hood has a player option for $6 million. Zach Collins is on the last year of his rookie deal next year. Melo's a free agent. Anthony Simons, Nazir Little, Hazonia, and Trent will be back for next year. Everybody else is pretty much off the books, which is going to be interesting. Whiteside will be a free agent. He may be interested in coming back to Portland. We'll see how that works out. But that's actually going to be huge for determining what Nurk's situation is. I think that he and they seem to feel like he had found a home there, and it's going to be very difficult to get him from Portland. If it were to happen, with his deal being so low, coming back to our lineup, I don't really see a true path. It would have to involve Dwight Powell, which would be, I can't see them trading Dwight Powell for Nurkic and being taken seriously or even making that call. But I feel like Dwight would have to be involved. There's no real path, I don't think. You know what? There's no path unless the Portland just loves Dwight. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Dwight Powell and like the 18th pick or something to sweeten the deal. Otherwise, I really can't see it. I really don't see it. There's no path in my opinion. Unless Nurk like demanded a trade or something ridiculous. which is even hard to imagine. Otherwise, he will be a free agent after next season, potentially, or definitely in 2022. And it's amazing to me he's only 26 still. And I believe I saved the fun one for last. Yes. MFFL 7741 came back with a banger. Extra question if you can, LOL. If Giannis were to join the Mavs, would that hurt Luka's legacy as being on a super team? I think that comes down to how people feel about Porzingis. There's a lot of people that still don't love Porzingis or doubt Porzingis for one reason or another. And so, if they don't see Porzingis as that, like a superstar, Luka and Giannis don't really constitute a super team on their own. And then we have to question, how's KP going to be doing physically, as well as when it comes to that discussion. I don't think just on its head that it does that. I think it's scary for the league to think about a European super conglomerate, if you will, with Giannis, Luka, and Porzingis. I actually think Giannis would fit well with that team, which is interesting to think about because technically you could play him and KP at a 4-5 and kind of switch the matchups based on who we're playing against and be okay, in my opinion. I think that if Luka goes down for whatever reason, Giannis can take over more ball handling duties. I think you could take Luka out and leave Giannis in and have Giannis take over more ball handling duties. I think that he can make Giannis better. I think they could run some pick and rolls. Like, there's a lot of possibilities with a Giannis Luka situation and KP. And quite frankly, I think that there's nobody that's really done it as far as a dynasty with one guy. There's always other guys. So I think that the issue when you look at the whole super teams destroying your legacy thing, the Warriors super team situation didn't seem to hurt Steph. Why? Because KD came to him. KD it hurt because he left his team. He left a team that was on the brink of going to its second finals with him at the helm. To join a team that had already won championships. That's why it hurt his legacy. With LeBron, it hurt his legacy because he joined up with two other All-Stars and went to a team. He left his team. So I think if Luka's here and somebody comes to him, I don't think it hurts his legacy. It may hurt Giannis's more. But even then, like I said, it depends on how you rate KP. As to whether it's you're looking at it as a super team even. So that's going to be interesting to even think about. I'm still not ready to get there because I don't like to advocate for taking another team superstar because I wouldn't want it to happen to me and I can't be a hypocrite. So until the day comes where Giannis is publicly saying I want to go to Dallas, then I'm not really going to push for that myself publicly. So that's really it. Another 30-minute question section. It looks like this pod may be an hour. Don't remember how long the first two sections were, but thank you guys for sticking in there with me. It's been an interesting ride for this. I mean, I only started the podcast for the bubble and the resumption. I will obviously continue doing this, like I said, every Thursday for sports, posting Thursday night, Friday morning, and then every Sunday for the movies. And I don't know, it's going to be a little bit different since I won't be covering games anymore. I'll be able to get into more speculation. I'll be able to have guests on, and I'm excited about all of that. So again, thank you guys for sticking with me. I'm appreciating every view. Viewership seems to be pretty steady now, So I'm happy about that. So I kind of have an idea where I'm at and how much I can improve or grow what I'm working with. So again, thank you guys for tuning in every time, for sending questions every time I ask. You're much appreciated. It's been a great birthday despite the loss. So until next time, which is actually going to be in like an hour when I record this other podcast, I'll catch you guys then. Peace.